Hi, everyone. We've already learned today about so many life-changing, game-altering technologies that can really help patients' lives. But I can't help put myself in the place of that patient and wonder about the emotional impact that enduring, sometimes challenging and difficult treatments have on these patients' lives, especially if these patients are young adults and teenagers. Take a minute and think about what it might be like to be a teenager in the hospital. There's nothing there for you anymore. Maybe when you were younger, but not now. Your illness has wreaked havoc in your relationships, your life. Maybe you're missing out on school, or it's prevented you from participating in that all-important first job in your life. But somehow you endure. You get through it. You're strong. You're an example to everybody. Everyone is fascinated about just how you're able to keep, despite it all, your life as normal as possible. But as a former patient, I'm here to tell you exactly what this says. There is nothing normal about being a sick kid with a chronic or serious illness. Although we try very, very hard to make these kids feel as normal as possible, do any of them really feel that way? So I decided to take a closer look. I hired a big data scraping company to look at all the conversations, millions and millions of conversations that are happening online between teens and young adults across illness categories when they're talking to each other, uncensored, over the internet. And what I found out was these kids, they're not feeling normal at all. In fact, they feel alone and misunderstood and scared. And diving deeper, we really looked at what kids are talking about online and how they're feeling about it. And you know what? At all stages of illness, from newly diagnosed to even reaching in discovery, there's not a lot positive being said out there. Only 9% of those things that kids themselves are sharing online have any positive content. We evaluated some random samples of the actual posts that they were putting up there, and the common theme that emerged is that kids are miserable and they're struggling. Yet for the most part, if you're like me and enjoy hanging out with sick kids in hospitals, they're not presenting this way. They're presenting like they have it all together. And why? Because by holding normalcy out as our norm for these kids, we're not giving them the chance to be real. We're not giving them the chance to look at the heart of the matter. We're not allowing these young people to express what their needs are and to be able to move from a place of struggle to a place where their illness doesn't define them anymore, where they do. At age 24, I was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor. It was only a couple months until my 25th anniversary, and my doctors encouraged me, my birthday, and my doctor encouraged me, maybe I should celebrate my birthday a little bit early this year. That was pretty harsh because I knew what they meant. But now, as over a 30-year brain tumor survivor, I can tell you, I remember what it was like. It's not easy to talk about the dark and scary side of things. We all know that those conversations that we need to have the most are the most difficult to have. It's tough to know how you're feeling at the time, let alone to be able to express those feelings. I thought that I needed to stay strong, not just for myself, but for everybody else in my family. I wasn't able to reach out and get the help that I needed because, to be honest, I had no idea what my needs were. I didn't have the words to express what I needed and to help other people understand. And it was only years later when an unrelated medical crisis allowed those stuffed feelings that I had stuffed for so long to come boiling up to the surface. And then once I started working through the emotional side, believe me, it took a long time. Apart from my illness, who really was I? And if I re-engaged in life, was it all going to be taken away again? So on my 25th anniversary of my survivorship, I decided to do something big to help other young people like myself work through the emotional journey when they have a serious and chronic illness. I envisioned a world where every young patient has real-time access to the tools that they need to express themselves and to build their emotional resilience. That is, their capacity to adapt and to grow through their challenges. I believed what was missing in adolescent health was a simple tool to help them grow and to work through the emotional challenges that they have. For my many years of working directly with kids and families, leading support groups in hospitals, I knew that these kids actually want to talk about what's going on with them. But we need to give them a chance, and we need to teach them how to do it. I wanted to create a tool that was something that any young person could access for free and that they would actually want to use. A tool that they could use anytime that they needed to pick me up or needed to express themselves. I knew that teens are not walking into self-help sections of a bookstore seeking information on how to process their emotions, really. And because of managed care, I knew these kids that were remaining in the hospital are often so sick that they can't even take advantage of the social services that are there. Or they're being sent home with such complex and difficult medical needs that their medical treatment takes priority, not their emotional needs. But we all know kids spend an extraordinary amount of time online. Teens and young adults today turn to the technology for every concern that they have, for every walk of life, and that's no different when they're sick kids seeking advice on how to work through their emotions. So I thought, why not bring that power, the healing power of self-expression that I wanted to teach these kids right to their own turf, on their phones, playing games. Sure, there were apps out there that would help kids manage their symptoms, or VR experiences that help kids, distract kids from medical procedures, or teach them about the procedures they're about to have. But delivering psychosocial content that would help heal these kids' heart through a cell phone, playing games, and I thought that could be pretty interesting. So welcome to my app, Shadow's Edge.
It's been hit, just like we've been hit by this diagnosis, this illness.
It makes me think of a black period, a dark period in your life, and you're at the edge of it. You want to get out of it, but you're not there yet.
The quest of the player in the game is to bring Shadow's Edge back to life. He does that through journaling and through creative expression.
Through the metaphor, really, of a city that's been somehow decimated or destroyed, you have the power to reconstruct it, and reconstruct it, both its beauty but also its meaning.
The game is going to ask you some questions so that you can dig deep and understand what's going on inside. Do I really love myself? What do I want my doctors to know about me? And what am I not saying?
Shadow's Edge is like a person-centered therapy without the therapist, if you will.
It's important to express yourself.
You need a little more than just a distraction or a little bit more than medical medicine.
It'll help you in so many ways, like more ways that you could possibly understand.
Thanks. So Shadow's Edge, it's the first ever mobile game that catalyzes the power of self-expression to empower these young patients to take charge of their emotional health. It helps them capture and tell stories and understand the story of their life, and it helps them express themselves authentically as they learn to live with their medical challenges. In Shadow's Edge, players meet teenage characters, very hip and cool teenage taggers that are trying to restore their city that's been decimated by storm. They take the players through an experience of disruption, then on to disillusionment, before they reach the point of discovery, where they learn how to be on the other side of their medical condition. And through the metaphors of the game, they learn how to heal emotionally. I chose graffiti as a metaphor for the game, not only because it was hip and cool and I knew the teenagers would love it, but really because of what it represents. And that is, a graffiti artist splats themselves out there because they have something to be said that people need to hear. And isn't it exactly what these patients need to do? To put themselves out there, to give people something to connect to help them understand, and so that they feel less alone. Unlike other games on the market that are about fighting your disease, we decided to take a completely opposite approach. Instead, we have kids go deeper into their experience by journaling and creating art from it. It's not a game about dominating your illness or shooting it down, because we all know the reality is that, sadly, for these patients, that's not often possible. So we wanted to give them power, and instead, we give them the power to learn to live with their illness and build strength through that experience. Similar to therapy, Shadow's Edge becomes that safe place. A blank slate, so to speak, but instead of that blank slate being a sterile white sheet of paper or the walls of a therapist's office, instead it's a very creative, fun, dynamic 3D environment that transforms as kids begin to face their issues and begin to heal emotionally. These are screenshots made by actual players in the game. Players find support for themselves and are able to reach out and meet other kids by sharing their graffiti on our Instagram-like sharing platform within the game. Our hope is that through gameplay, players can find their voice and reconnect to themselves and to others. But we did more than hope. We've studied it. We looked at how is playing Shadow's Edge, and can it really build resilience in these kids that have a lot to face? So we looked at the 7 factors most prevalently shown in the literature to affect built resilience. And what we found is that by playing Shadow's Edge, it affects all 7 factors in a positive direction for building resilience, with the highest being optimism, positive self-identity, and emotional regulation. And the impact of the gameplay on our beta testers was also strongly positive. So our goal now is to become the very first game that's very first evidence-based game that's a digital therapeutic for emotional health. And so now we're doing a full-scale study with the Osher Collaborative and Lurie Children's Hospital in Chicago. And we're very anxious to get the results. So we're ready to go big. With 6 translations under our belt of our game, we have high hopes of how we can expand what we're doing. First, of course, we need to reach the original audience that we have for Shadow's Edge, which through partnerships with some leading children's health organizations and marketing directly for the first time to teens and young adults, we hope to build our player community. We also have some fancy VR additions that we'd like to add to the game. Because if you can think about it, if a kid can build their world and show it and express what it's like to be them, what if you could put their phone with their game in it into VR goggles, where they could then experience and have that reflected back, how they've grown and how they've changed. And if they could do it themselves, what about if you could hand that to a parent, their doctors, or a trusted friend, that they want to understand what it's like to be them and to walk in their shoes? These are some of the things that we're working on. So please, come join us, ride with us, and together we can embrace the shadow. Thank you.